So, so I thought it was interesting that we haven't been really studying HIV for very long, only since like the 1980s, when like that study started.
Oh yeah.
That was interesting. That it was like people have been like studying it for
Yeah.
30 years.
And how fast it skyrocketed.
Yeah, and how much changes there has been between countries and stuff since
Just
the
in a short
1980s.
period of time.
Yeah.
I know before it used to be called something else. It was like HIV or AIDS and stuff like that. It had like another name. Just don't remember what it was. Yeah, they haven't been studying it for very long, especially because like the U.S. was the one that really started studying the gay man's disease. What was?
Dude, he's so into those graphs.
Oh, I know. I don't know how they do that. It's just
Statistics and history dates or something.
yeah, but I've never seen a graph like that until this class.
Yeah. He does good.
He's like super passionate about his graph.
In my adopted country, in Samoa, there's AIDS there, but it's not that big of an issue when you look at malnutrition and like malaria and stuff like that. So very little people have that, but a lot more people have um, different kinds of diseases and stuff like that. So I feel like in some countries, HIV is not that big of an issue because they have the money and the technology to do so.
I have Zambia, and it's in Africa, so it's a pretty big problem. And I didn't realize all the side effects that come with it, like when women get diagnosed with HIV, then they're treated pretty bad, especially by their husbands. They'll like beat them and everything, and they'll often become depressed, and that can often lead to them wanting other people to be infected with HIV so they won't have to die alone. It's kind of sad thing.
I thought it was interesting when he talked about how in Africa we kind of like stereotype it as the place where HIV is, but like it's a problem like, in every country. It's kind of like there's some parts of Africa that struggle with it more than others. Just like every other country, there's areas that struggle with it more than other places. Between like Salt Lake and Los Angeles, use that example.
Well, I think it's weird. Why did Uganda like have a huge bubble at first? Like, did it start there or something? I don't know. Like different countries, just depends on. I don't know if it
Could
started
be
in
like a higher
Africa.
rate,
Yeah.
higher rates in the smaller little tribes within there.
When did that like genocide happen there?
90s.
Maybe that like dropped it.
Oh yeah.
Mass killing and stuff.
Another reason that HIV spreads in Zambia at least is because of high alcohol use. So people aren't thinking clearly and raping young kids and everything. They get infected with it. And when the women are depressed, then they'll infect other people with it. So it just keeps spreading because people aren't thinking clearly.
People just do it out of anger too, or
So women do. Depression.
Well, I think a lot of them could be undereducated too. But he said like they have multiple partners during the month, or like he talked a little bit just for a brief second about heroin use was a huge indicator of AIDS and stuff. So just being taught not to have like sterile needles and like not to even do drugs. You shouldn't do that in the first place, but safety precautions and stuff like that.
It's really sad too because a lot of children are victims of it. It's also something that can be passed through childbirth from child to mother. I think it is. I think it's when the birth actually happens. I don't know that it's through milk. Because I've no through the actual birth process because there's all that blood involved and the contact with that can spread it because it's contact with the blood. I learned that. I thought it could maybe be through milk, but
So I took microbiology and we learned a lot about HIV and it's called a retrovirus. So it has something when it replicates itself, it messes up in its genetic replication, and so it keeps making different forms of itself, and that's why it's so hard to find a vaccine for it, and they can't find a cure for it. Yeah. Have anything else to say? We're good? If I can find it.
That's it.